My name is Tisha Craft. Today I'll be teaching you guys about an instructional strategy, which is a mini lesson. The basics of a mini lesson is a 10 to 15 minute lesson that focuses on one particular writing skill. When it will be taught prior to the student's application of a skill addressed in the mini lesson topic. Why? It allows students to focus on the specific writing skill to immediately apply to the writing and receive timely feedback from both their peers and the teacher. The student outcome is that this strategy helps students refine their writing skill and use grade level conventions. I will implement this strategy by forming a group of 3 to 4 students based on the common strengths and weaknesses, all weaknesses determined by the student's writing or other assessments. So let's just say I allow them to write a paper the following week before, and then after I assess their papers over the weekend, I put them in groups by that. I would determine the writing skill. So the writing skill that I chose, a concept, is varying sentences to address with the group based on the group's weaknesses or strengths. I will pull the group together while the rest of the class is working on an independent assignment, one that doesn't really need much of the teacher's help, of course. I will introduce the skill to the students, a concept, by providing strong examples from literature or strong examples in their writing that I found. If it had an error, if it was right, I would still use it. Then after that, I will model the application of the skill using the provided examples and engage the students in explaining the process of the effectiveness of the skill based on the demonstration. After that is done, I will then ask the students to practice the skill independently with teacher provided examples. So I would give them a worksheet to close it off, or I would just use their own writing again and ask them to fix all the errors. Then I will monitor and provide feedback within them asking me, is this correct? Is it right? I'll just ask them, what type of sentence is this? I will explain to the group that the skill concept will be evaluated. So by the end of this mini lesson, they will have a worksheet. It will be 10 questions. It will include all of the four varying sentences that we talked about. And I will follow up with the students who need help afterwards. The assessment is basically to be able for me to tell that if it was effective or not. So now I will go into the mini lesson that I will be telling them about. We'll be talking about, like I said, varying sentences. The 4 types of sentences we'll be talking about is a simple sentence, a compound sentence, a complex sentence, and a compound complex sentence. A simple sentence is a sentence that consists of a subject and a predicate. So I will give them 2 examples, and I will ask them to find 1 example in their writing. So the 2 examples I will use is cars go forward in the spring, and Danny practices the guitar every day. Then I'll move on to a compound sentence. A compound sentence contains 2 simple sentences joined by a comma and a conjunction. So, of course, they should already know that a compound sentence is formed by 2 simple sentences. So, an example would be 2 simple sentences would be, they did not brush their teeth, they did not brush their hair. To make it a compound sentence, I would say that they did not brush their teeth, comma, nor did they brush their hair. Because they should remember that a compound sentence contains 2 simple sentences joined by a comma and a conjunction. So the comma will be placed before the conjunction. Next, I would say that he finished his book, comma, and he has nothing left to read. And again, same thing. He finished his book can be 1 sentence, and another simple sentence would be he has nothing left to read. That conjunction will make it a compound sentence, which is and, the conjunction and that comma. And I will ask them to provide an example. Let's just say one of the students' examples was, I wanted to wash the car today, comma, but it decided to rain before I began to get the materials ready. A complex sentence. Complex sentence contains a simple sentence with clauses attached. So example would be, before the queen rode in the parade, comma, she gave a speech. And James and Eve rode their bicycles after they ate lunch. We have to go to bed when the clock chimes 10 o'clock. Then lastly, the last particular various sentence that we will talk about is compound complex. A compound complex sentence is comprised of at least two independent clauses or one or more dependent clauses. An example of that, just in case they need a refresher about what an independent clause is. An independent clause makes a statement or asks a question that can act as a complete sentence. An example would be the dog barks. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot act as a complete sentence because it begins with a subordinating word such as when, because, if, whoever, etc. So an example of that would be when the dog barks. So a compound sentence. So then I will be telling them again about a compound complex sentence. An example of that would be, as the teacher taught, comma, one student put his head down and the other played on his phone. In another example, it would say, though Michelle prefers watching romantic films, comma, she rented the last spy thriller and she enjoyed it very much. That would be a compound complex sentence as well. So once that is talked about, once I've asked for their sentences, looked at it, made sure that they understood, I will go on to give them a worksheet. Within that worksheet, I will have 10 questions. For questions 1 through 4, it requires the students to let me know if the simple sentence is a fragment or not. So they would have to know what needs to be in a simple sentence to determine if it's a sentence or a fragment. For questions 5 through 8 of this worksheet, I'll ask the students to combine each pair of simple sentences to make a compound sentence. So of course they would have to know which type of conjunction they would need to add to it. And lastly, we would talk about the compound complex sentence. So, we would talk about the complex sentence and how to form one. So it would be, they would have to also use a subordinate conjunction to form the complex sentence. And it says, Caleb laughs at his younger brother, and Isabel has to work on her school project. And with the compound complex sentence, they usually don't have many of those in their writing. But if they do, I will point them out to them and see if they can give me examples again, because I did not include this in my worksheet. But it will be talked about, and I will point it out to them if I do see it in their writing. And after that, I will pull the next group, and we will do this so on and so on until it's 100% or at least 90% efficient.